Good morning, everyone. This is Leslie Wyatt with SoftPro, and thank you so much for joining us for episode 43. Today, we are going to be talking to actually two of my best friends, but also marketing gurus from Bowe Digital, and we are going to talk about marketing strategies to grow your business in 2023. Before I turn it over to them and introduce them, I just want to do a little housekeeping and let you know that this is recorded. And as long as you have signed up for it, we will send a recap. And in that, you'll find a link to the recording as well as the blog and any other information that we have. We also welcome questions in the chat or questions feature, and we'll kind of monitor it throughout. If we don't get to your question, we'll reach out to you after the webinar, no problem. So please feel free to ask questions of our speakers or of us, and we'll try and get to as many as we can. And I think we're just going to go ahead and jump right into this one. I mentioned that we have two speakers today. I'm sure most of you know them. They speak quite a bit at events. They, as I mentioned, happen to be two of my best friends. So I would like to welcome both Wayne Stanley and Bradley Erb with Bowe Digital. So welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie.
Before we get started, Wayne, can you just give a super high level just explanation of Bowe Digital, just so everybody, maybe the people who aren't familiar with what you guys do?
Sure, of course. Thank you again to you and SoftPro for letting us have this conversation with everybody today. But Bowe Digital is a marketing firm that helps partners all over the country with their traditional marketing, like logo design, flyers, handouts, billboards, strategy and training, to everything on the digital side with websites, social media, email marketing, blogs, vlogs, and all kinds of other content.
And Brad, what is your role over at Bowe Digital?
Yeah, my role is the business development manager. So my days are filled with talking with title agents and real estate attorneys and strategizing how to better communicate their brand.
Okay, great. Well, we've talked a lot at great length. We travel a lot together at different conferences and seminars and webinars and so on and so forth about, you know, the market in 2023, and everyone's kind of, you know, they were spoiled by the past 2 years and they're a little hesitant going into 2023. And a lot of people don't really know what kind of strategy to go with, because they know it's going to be a little bit of a down market. And, you know, while we understand that's usually the best time to expand your marketing umbrella, a lot of people are a little hesitant. So hopefully after today, people can realize what they can do in this market. You know, it doesn't always have to be a super thriving market to, you know, expand your business and get your name out there. So one of the first things I kind of want to talk about here is growing your business versus maintaining your business. I think a lot of people right now aren't even necessarily too much thinking about growing their business when they really can in this type of market. They're really just trying to maintain it. So, you know, I've heard you talk at events in the past that title agents are in basically one of two camps, right? Growth or maintenance. So what exactly does that mean? And maybe Wayne, you could talk about that.
Sure. I think you're right. I think this market is different. I think it's sort of mind-blowing to me as we talk to certain agents about what they're experiencing right now. There are some agents that are sort of shrugging, and they're like, you know, compared to 2019, things aren't so bad. And then there are other agents that are down double-digit percents, and I think that that's a really unique place to be in. And I think you're right. A lot of them aren't trying to grow right now. They're trying to maintain. You know, they've got their arms around their existing business, and they're trying to figure that out. But I really think that, you know, you're in one of two camps long term, even in this kind of market. And I think that a lot of people think that the growth market is harder, trying to think about, you know, that mindset of whether you're a one county operation currently and you're thinking about additional business that you can get within that county, or you're thinking about growing through ventures in new states, joint venture opportunities, growing in adjacent counties, whatever that may be for you. People think that that's sort of a mammoth task. And to me, it's actually the maintenance that's harder. It's the folks that are happy with the operation that they have now, whether that's a 5-county operation, a 1-state operation, whatever that may be. They're trying to maintain that business that they have. And in a market like this, especially, I think that's even harder, because you've got a finite amount of business to get. And to maintain it, you've got to be focused on all things. We're focused on technology, we're focused on security, we're focused on the customer experience. internal training, external training, sales, marketing, all of that. You're focused on that stuff in the growth mindset too, but to maintain what you have takes even more work because it's a lot easier to chip away that existing business. And so I think that's step one for a lot of people, is to step back and really think about, moving forward long term, right now and 2 to 3 years in the future. Are you looking to maintain what you have? Because that's a very specific set of marketing goals, for this conversation. Or are you looking to grow? And I'm sure some people are sitting there thinking, well, can it be both? And the answer is yes, it can be both. And that's, you're choosing the hardest option of all, but it's also the most exciting, I think.
I mean, Brad, you talk to people, day in, day out. What are you hearing as far as maybe hesitations or thoughts with trying to grow their business versus maintain it?
Yeah, a lot of what I'm hearing right now is that growth seems to be the way people want to forge forward because all counts are down. There's not near as many files coming through, and title companies aren't handling as many transactions. So they're really focused on growing. And what I've tried to talk with people about is that's a great path forward, and we can definitely help you grow. But we really still have to focus on who you've already got, who already knows your company, who already knows your story and your process and your closer and the front desk person who's familiar and comfortable there. We can't just kick them to the curb, but let's still focus on that growth piece. And it's a lot of education that you have to do with that. But there's a lot of exciting ways to be able to do that and bring your company and your story to life.
Yeah, so Wayne, you mentioned 2019, and I'm a huge advocate of this, listening to everybody talk about the current market conditions. And as if people were to go back to 2018, 2019 and compare it to, the last half of 2022 and the big, first half of 2023, I think it might surprise most people that they're either ahead or, on par for that we just got so caught up in, 2020 through 2022, and it was so unexpected. And I get that, it is a huge drop, and maybe people increased their staff or did grow their organizations, and now they're kind of a little bit worried about that because they've got more people. And I wondered, Wayne, if you could talk about, I think people don't realize how they can utilize, and Brad, you just touched on it too, their current staff to help grow business. That just because, Susie and Bobby had to be, in the office doing closings every day because they were coming at, such a rapid pace, Susie and Bobby might be able to assist you now in other ways as far as growing your business. And Brad, you kind of just touched on that, saying, the person who takes the front order and whatnot. So I don't know, Wayne, if you want to talk on that, answer that first, but, what have you seen of organizations trying to, I don't know, maybe reskill their, current employees to help with that?
Yeah, I think, in title especially, we don't often leave room in our positions unless you are the marketing person specifically, or you are the salesperson. There's not a lot of room for creativity in a lot of those roles. But now that we've got a little more time, it's a good time to kind of see what other skills does your team possess? What interests do they have? And I think that we've seen some really unique things as we've talked to some of our customers where they want to get involved in video, but they don't have a budget for an outsourced company to help, or they're not really sure how to get started. And so we'll say, ask your team. And then you find out that, Doug and Dan do all the video work for their church every weekend. You find out that somebody has a passion for social media, and they've actually been doing it for their library or theater organization as a volunteer for 2 or 3 years, and stuff that doesn't fit into their traditional title company role, whether they're a processor, an escrow manager, who knows what, where they've been super busy, especially for the last however many years here, insanely busy. And that's what you hired them to do. When I was at Springboard last week with Alta, we talked a lot about the other duties as assigned line in everyone's job description right now. And it's a good time that as we step back, and we're doing so much cross training and education that we didn't have time for in the last 3 years. Now it's also time to think about cross training in terms of how they can be helpful in putting your business out there. And you'd be surprised at the skill sets that you have, or the network that your team has beyond what their role has been already. And so I think the best way to kind of tap into that is to ask, and you would be really surprised the responses that you get. Some people still need more training, and they may not feel like they can jump into it head first, or they may not want to. They may enjoy it as a hobby and don't want that to be part of their work. That's always, you know, the kind of thing that comes up in those conversations. But it's good to know what's available to you without having to do anything. You know, what's already existing on your team now.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of definitely hit it on the head with, you know, our industry is not traditionally known as the creative types. And I know that's been changing over the past couple of years, and especially with companies like yours specializing in, you know, title and helping them with more creative marketing and how to, you know, not only market their partners, but consumers. And I know Alta has done a good job with their their HOT program, the home outreach program, buyers outreach program. And so, you know, Brad, are you seeing some of this? And when you're talking, you know, the day-to-day customers, are you seeing that they are kind of rescaling, like, moving people around to kind of tap into some of their resources, or is this something that you talk to them about?
Both, yes. So I have talked with many that have started to reskill and just evaluate, like Wayne was talking about, what skills do we have under our roof currently that maybe we're not utilizing. And what I hear the most from those folks who are trying it is, well, yeah, Sally is a great writer, but she doesn't know what to write about. And it's hard for me not to smile sometimes, because our industry is so misunderstood, and it's not one that a lot of people really go in depth at talking about what we actually do day to day. We talk about the end product, and we talk about, you know, the safety and security of it, but what do we really do every day? And so I encourage those folks to just let everyone get a little peek at what you're doing on a random Tuesday. You know, just talk through that process of searching a property. You know, what does that really look like? And that turns out to be really great content, because it's something that that person already knows a ton about, because it's what they do, you know, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Well, the 8 hours a day thing, that's kind of laughable for some during the busy times, but it's what they do every day. So they know way more about it than what they give themselves credit for. And that's just a great place to start with that content is, what do your folks do now, and can they apply any other skills to it? And then for the ones that are like, no, nope, nope, we didn't hire them to do any writing, and we didn't hire this person to do social media. And I just ask, well, why did you hire them? You know, you hired them for a purpose, you trust them, they know how to do this job. Why not let them tell your customers a little bit more about the job? Humanize that process, and to be able to help humanize your team and your company.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. No one really truly understands what it is our industry does, and specifically within a title organization or an attorney's office. So utilizing someone to even just say, hey, you don't have to be that creative, just kind of document what you do. We have someone else that can take that information and make it sound, you know, however you want it to sound. So those are some pretty good tips. So everyone wants to know the best way to get customer attention and eventually get their business, right? That's the end goal. So we gave a hint for this in our emails promoting the event, and it's video and email. And trust me, I get it. I know a lot of you just cringed on the video part. I know a lot of you are so much better with it in the past 2 years. You got used to all the Zoom calls and the happy hours and seeing family over. And so, you know, for a lot of people, it's not so daunting as it was maybe 2 years ago, Wayne, when you would ask people to do videos and whatnot, and people would just absolutely say no. I know I sound like a hypocrite right now because I'm not on video, but I will spare you all the story. But I was up till 3 a.m. and you don't want to see me on video, but normally I would have no problem going on video. But so Brad, I was wondering, can you maybe touch on the or talk more about the email side of it and what agents should be thinking about?
Sure. So on email, you know, all of our inboxes are crammed full of email every morning, all throughout the day, and sometimes it just gets to be overwhelming. So I think sticking out from the rest of those emails is what's most important. And yeah, your subject line is great, and that's a great way to get people interested enough to at least open it and give it the time of day. But once they open it, then how do you keep their attention? How do you stand out from the rest? And we've found that even internally, using videos in our emails is so much more engaging, because you get that perceived eye-to-eye contact. People can hear the tonality in your voice. They pick up on different inflections rather than just written content. You're getting across the same message that you typically would. And honestly, for me, and I know for a lot of others on our team, clicking that record button for a quick video and then talking about it instead of typing it, just tends to keep that conversation flowing a little easier, and it typically saves time as well. So what we've really tried to focus on is how often can we implement that video to keep people engaged? And especially on the sales side, which is where the majority of my world is focused, it gives people a different level of trust and knowing you when they can see you and hear your voice rather than just another email that's coming through. And then obviously you can create content based around that, and it'll be a little bit different depending on what type of client and customer you're talking to, as opposed to how often you should be implementing that video. But honestly, if you can find at least one person every week to send video to, you may be shocked at the level of responsiveness that you get from them.
You brought up a good point, and especially with so many people working some like hybrid type version, video is a great way for them to feel connected, whether it be with their coworkers, whether it be with their particular teams, or even partners, right? So I know, like Wayne, you do a lot of videos with your marketing, and I know some of the committees we're on at Alta together, like Taylor, our friend, she does a lot of videos. Not only does it, I'm happy to hear their voice because they're a friend of mine and I don't get to see them a lot, but a lot of context gets lost in email or text, right? As everybody kind of takes what they can from it, whereas a video, you can hear it in their voice, you can see them, you know exactly what they're trying to relay, and you don't have to sit there and read either. I mean, for people that are busy and doing things, they can just hit a video and go about doing some other stuff, but you're still getting that contact and that message across. So I mean, I know I like getting them and I like watching them, and it makes me feel more connected, to your point, Brad. So I'm wondering, Wayne, how an agent translate video into business, and why is this so important?
Sure. I think that the two things that I hear the most when someone wants to push back on why they're not doing video are, I guess that maybe there's a top three that I'll say. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to talk about. I don't like my voice, and I don't like the way I look. Those are the top three. We could have done a little poll for our attendees today of why aren't you doing video? And I would wager that most of those are covered in those top three reasons. The first two, we just have to get, or I'm sorry, the voice and the way we look, you just have to get over it. I tell folks when we're doing our trainings on video, we're all brave enough to leave the house every single day. And you have to think of video and what you're doing with your digital marketing as sort of a digital doormat, a digital welcome mat for you. And if I came into your office today and wanted to meet with you about a potential deal I have, or if I wanted an update on something or some education or something like that, you would not turn me down because you didn't like the way you look today. You would not say, well, maybe come back tomorrow. I didn't wear the right top, or my pants and my shoes don't quite match today, or whatever it is. You wouldn't do that. That's just not the way we socially operate. And I'm sure there's a lot of psychology in why video makes us feel totally different than on the in-person interactions, probably because of just it's broadcast to more folks, but it's something that you shouldn't let be a hurdle for you. And then on the content side, I'm not sure what to say. There's so much to say, and I think one of the easiest ways to get started with content is to use content from others, riff off of what somebody else has already created. For example, SoftPro does blogs and ebooks and all kinds of great information that they push out every month, that you could take that and use it as a springboard for what you want to talk about. In some ways, you could almost narrate one of their ebooks. You could walk through one of those blog topics, just starting out by saying, I don't know if you saw this month, but SoftPro put out this blog on XYZ topic, and here are the top 3 things you should know. And it's a 30-second video that walks through it, and the content of what you're talking about has already been done for you. A number of your underwriters put out content every single month. A lot of your other vendors are putting out content. Your state land title associations, the American Land Title Association, all of these groups have so much content that already exists. You should not feel the burden of having to create content on your own, because there's so much out there that you can riff off of. But if you want to be original, if you're trying to not do what everybody else is doing, I think you can very easily think through content differently for your company by one of my tips is to always go to your front office person, whoever answers the phones, and ask them, what's the question you get that gives you the biggest headache every week? They will have an answer. They always have an answer. Usually they'll give you the 2 or 3 things that gives them the most headache. Whatever that is, it means that we're not educating enough, marketing it enough, communicating it enough. Sometimes it's they don't know how to find this thing on the website. They don't know what to bring to the closing. They don't know what they don't know. And so I think that's another one that's really easy content to put together. And then it doesn't have to be you. I think that a lot of people also get stuck on if you don't like the way you look, or you don't like your voice, you're not sure what to say, but you know that you need to get started on video. There's a number of video that gets that's really successful on social media and on various websites that's text-based. It is video that you can read. I saw a stat the other day that something crazy like 70% of people listen to videos muted. So the voice excuse should be gone right away because they're not reading it. That's why the captions are important. I'm sorry, because they're not listening to it. So the captions are important. The text on screen is important. And if that's not your thing, if you think it should be a person, you can also do narration. So you can do something like a walkthrough of your office. You can walk through your community and talk about these things. That's what a lot of mortgage professionals that are getting a lot of views on TikTok, for example, they're not necessarily their face on screen. They don't want to be seen as the TikTok star or the YouTube star when they're at the grocery store. They want to be seen as a mortgage expert, but they're giving this really great information. So it doesn't have to be you on screen. We've got customers that they'll talk about what's happening with mortgage rates or with banking right now, and they'll do it like while their office espresso machine is brewing in the background. It does not have to be a human face sitting right in front of you. And after all that, if there's still something else that you need for this, find somebody else on your team that is comfortable with it. Again, you might find out there's somebody that does skits at church every single weekend, is in community theater, who knows what, that would be super comfortable to be that face for your company in your video endeavors. So there's always, whenever we talk about marketing, I sort of talk about it as these like sci-fi glass walls that slide in front of you as these excuses as to why we're not doing certain things. And there's a lot of ways to get started with video that that doesn't have to be your burden. There's so much there that already exists that you can riff off of for sure.
And I think one other thing that you can do as far as video within your office is look to your customers. How many of you have that realtor or those couple realtors or lenders that just love to see their face plastered everywhere and their name and the bright and shining lights? Let's play into that. Let's ask them for a testimonial or a review while they're in your office. As soon as you're done at that closing table, ask them, how was your experience? And would you be willing to just take 10 or 15 seconds and let me record you talking about that experience? That kind of stuff is so shareable and is wonderful, even in marketing emails, when you're trying to get more clients and when you're trying to market who your business is, because then people can see their peers having a great experience under your roof. And that FOMO effect is something that a lot of realtors especially kind of buy into. So it's an easy one to gain a lot of traction.
And I'm sure we'll talk about content here in a second, but I also just wanted to say that I think that when you're thinking about specifically your question, Leslie, was translating video into business. And I think that's a thing that we hear all the time. If I start posting on social media, how many orders a week will I get? That's not quite how marketing works, especially in this industry. But I think that you're creating trust and you're creating deeper relationships by connecting with people via video. We have customers that have started using tools like Hippo and BombBomb and things like that to embed video into their emails, and because they're able to connect differently and see a face to the name and all of that, they're getting business from that, and it takes time. And it's sort of, you can't think about it as one more thing, but it's really the evolution of sales. It's really the evolution of how we would normally see somebody at a networking event, or we would see somebody out in the community. We would see them through educational things in our offices. That, again, that digital office for you, this is just part of that. And so don't look at it as one more thing, but like, how do you make this part of your comprehensive plan for how you're marketing your company?
Yeah, I'm going to add two things from the video standpoint. One, it makes me laugh whenever I'm just not really feeling doing a video. Wayne, I always think about when we were presenting probably year and a half, 2 years ago or something, and you basically used the analogy of, listen, would like, if someone comes to your office and you don't like the way you look that day, you're not going to go run and hide behind your desk. You're still going to meet with them, right? And I don't know, something with that just resonated and clicked, and thought to myself, yeah, I mean, I may not look like how I look on video, but that's how I look in person. So, it's no different. So I find that really interesting that something like that, sometimes I'll just think about and be like, okay, I'll make my video now, or I'll do whatever. And then something else that you both talked about is one of the, I find, at least for me personally, like I respond really well to just kind of like very laid back, informal type videos, right? Everything doesn't need to be a production. And I think that's what some title agents think. They need to, okay, we got to get this lighting, we got to do this, and we got to have a script. And sometimes the best is just pop in an office and say, hey, what's your title tip today? And, and it just seems more real. It's more relatable, so more candid, and it's not as stressful because, it can be funny. It can be a blooper. Some of those are even the best, right? Those are, I feel like, what people remember. Not that putting serious, useful, resourceful content out there isn't worth it by any means, but it doesn't have to be the end all be all. You can still have kind of funny, have fun with it, and be more candid with things, and I think still get the end result that you're looking for. So I agree with all of that with video. I think it's great tips, and hopefully our audience today will think about it a little differently. And another thing I'll also add, and I think a lot of this came out with 2020 and 2021, you don't need special gear. You just need a phone, right? The video's fine, the quality's fine. You don't need to have some big production. And like I said, sometimes it's better when you can see that, like, they just put it together and they're having fun. And hey, I'd like to do a closing with these people because they also seem to have fun at their office and having fun, of course. So, one thing, as much as I think video is great, and I do, and I wish more people would do it, and especially in the emails. Wayne, I was wondering, Brad, you talked a little bit about the email, but I was wondering, Wayne, if you could add just a little bit more about like traditional marketing email, because I know maybe everybody's not ready to jump on board and just send out videos. So, I don't want that to get lost. It's still an effective way. So I don't know, Wayne, what your thoughts might be on that.
Yes. If you're already doing marketing emails, that's great. If you're trying to figure out how to get started, a question that we often get asked is, do we buy a list? Is that how we get started? Don't buy a list, especially in this industry. It's a great way to have your MailChimp or your Constant Contact account shut down, because if people have previously reported being spammed or not signing up for lists, then you're going to get caught pretty quickly. So we tell most folks that they should start with their the data that they own from their title production software, like through SoftPro, and to really start to think about how to segment those customers, because you can look at who's given you business in the last 6 months and who's given you business in the last 2 years, and the message to each of those groups might be very different. Or people that gave you business in 2021 but didn't in 2022. I know that kind of stuff takes time, but when you really start looking at it, again, especially if you're back in that maintenance boat, if you're in the one that's trying to maintain what you have, you've got to spend time on this. And you might be surprised, it might look like you only had a change of 5%, but when you're looking at who specifically gave business 1 year and didn't the next, it's like, well, we didn't realize that turned off completely. You actually got that much more business from somebody else and didn't realize that somehow they felt ignored. We all know, what happens with realtor business. I'm happy to say that it's a little finicky sometimes. If we have any realtors on the call, I mean, no offense, but we know that one deal can change the amount of business that they send your way. And so looking at that data and thinking then, what do we want to talk to these people about, I think is really important. And if you're not at that point to dive that deep, at least having the list of current customers and being able to talk to them, I think is really important. You can use tools, like I said before, MailChimp and Constant Contact to send out these emails. If you're using a service for video, like Brad talked about, Hippo or BombBomb or many others that allow you to embed video, you can also email from those platforms. They have marketing email systems put in there. I know a lot of folks in the industry, especially in the last 5 years, have adopted various CRM systems like Salesforce and HubSpot. A lot of them allow you to send marketing emails from those platforms as well. It doesn't really matter where you're sending it from. What matters is what are you saying and how often are you sending email. For a lot of people, getting one email out a month is a lot, and it takes a lot of effort to get the content written or created or whatever it may be, to have it approved, to send it out, to get the feedback, all of that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of data from HubSpot that says that some of the companies that are getting the most website traffic are sending out blogs and marketing emails 11 times or more a month. That always gives me heartburn when I say that, because for the partners that we work with in the industry, I think the most we have right now is we've got some that are sending 4 and 5 marketing emails a month, so roughly 1 a week. And most people are still in that 1 a month category. So if you're just trying to figure out how to get started, what should you be doing, 1 a month is safe and perfectly fine. And people always say, well, we don't want to spam our customers. That's where dividing up your list and being specific about what you're talking about. If you've got somebody that consistently gives you business, uses your tools like your net sheet calculator, your new website, connects with you on social, shares your posts, all that kind of stuff, they're probably going to get bored and not engage with an email about how to use your net sheet calculator, about how to access different documents on your website. If they're already doing that, then that's an easy way for them to ignore what you're doing. So knowing more about who you're communicating with can then help inform what you're going to say.
I agree that you really need to target your audience. And I think that's really good advice that maybe a lot of people don't think of. They just say, okay, here's all my customers, here's my email. And I think you lose a lot of people that consistently coming back to read it if it doesn't apply to them time and time again. So I think that's a really important piece of information. So I do want to talk about content here in a second, but before we do, I just wanted to ask you guys, is there, what other strategies should title companies be thinking about right now outside of just straight up email and video marketing? And I don't know, Brad, if you want to jump on this one, and Wayne, you can add your 2 cents, but just, anything else that you might be talking to people about.
Yeah, I think now's a really good time for there to be some focus on your website. How user-friendly is your website? Is there a place there for your customers to be able to order title and automatically, generate that file being open? So I think website's another place where some consideration should go, and then also your social media. The odds of somebody Googling your business name or title company in my area and coming into your office to have that initial introduction is pretty slim. Just think about where we go for the brands that we engage with. When we Google that, do we visit their website or their social media, or do we hop in the car and drive to them? So having that content on both places that really talks about your brand, that humanize, again, I keep going back to humanizing our industry and your brand and your company, but it's so important to show that, we're real people. We may be providing a service and some insurance that may not be very humanized, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about us differently and our process. So social media is another big one where people are like, well, I'm already on Facebook, so I think we're good. Well, that's a great place to start. And if you aren't on any platform at all, let's go ahead and let's start on one. And Facebook's a great place to start. But have you ventured into TikTok or LinkedIn or Instagram? These are all other great platforms to be on. And you might realize that a lot of your clientele is divided. You may have some more of your legacy customers that are solely fixated on Facebook, and that's the only social media platform they'll ever be a part of, whether they engage with you there or not. And that's wonderful, because you need to be talking about yourself on Facebook. You may have some of your new and up and coming realtors and lenders that, Facebook's not really for them. They're more on the Instagram side of things, which is awesome. But are you only going to service one of those platforms? No, you should probably be posting content to both, so that both sets of your customers and clients and other prospects have the same ability to see that content and to learn more about you and your team and your company. And then when you start to really think about who are my clients, who are my customers, ask them, what social media platforms are you on? And listen, it's one thing to ask and then to go on about your day, like, oh yeah, I asked them one time, but I forget what they said. But when you ask, then make sure that you make yourself visible where they're already at. You know, it's hard enough to be able to capture their attention while they're right in front of us, but to try to capture their attention on a platform that they're not already engaging with, you're just putting hurdles in front of yourself there. And there's so many tools that we'll talk about here in a little bit that can help you schedule out those posts on social media across all platforms. That way you don't have to not only create the content, but then think about, okay, I need to post it to these 5 platforms, and that's going to take me, 10 or 15 minutes out of my day, and I could really be over here doing this instead. It's all right there for you. So there are tools and things like that to help you through that. And then back to the website, just to kind of close the loop on that. Take a look at your website and think about it from your user experience. When I log on or when I go to your website, are there any of your humans from your actual staff on there, or are they all stock photos? If I'm your customer and I'm getting ready to come give you my first file and we're coming in for our first closing, how am I going to know the faces that I should expect when I walk in that front door? If I haven't met you in person yet, where am I going to learn about that? Where am I going to learn about the underwriters that you use, and where am I going to learn about the other community events that you're involved in, and what else your team is doing outside of those 4 walls? So when I'm talking with people, I'm really trying to get them to think about, now that you're in this content mode and you're thinking about your brand and your business and your people, where all are we going to talk about it at? So outside of marketing emails and video, it's definitely social media and websites.
I'm going to piggyback on this and throw it over to Wayne, because I think what you started to talk about was so important with the content. But before I throw it over to you, Wayne, Brad, I cannot agree with you more with personalizing it. The stock photos, it doesn't give you the warm and fuzzies of this is the person I'm going to go meet and see, and I can't relate to them. So I cannot stress to you enough that no matter the age group that you're dealing with, personalizing some of this will really go a long way. But you mentioned content, in social media and whatnot. So I know that regardless of whatever your strategy is obviously super important, and putting videos out there that have nothing to do with what you're trying to do maybe isn't the best idea. So you really need to kind of focus on content, whether it's for your website, social media, so on and so forth. So Wayne, maybe you could talk a little bit about, how can title agents create content regularly? And then maybe also in that as well, and Brad, you can also add some of this, is what content seems to matter most? Like, what do you guys see so that people are, taking the time to doing it, but they're putting out there what people really want?
Sure. I want to give a pro tip to something Brad said just a second ago, though, for people about asking your customer, where are they active, what matters to them, because this counts for the content too. But do not ask, save yourself the heartache of, don't ask the loudest customer that you have, or the customer that is your squeakiest wheel, whatever analogy you want to use for that. Because they may not be representative of everyone. If you ask your customer that's most active on social media, sure, they're going to give you a really specific response. You should not immediately, revert the ship into that direction because of that one customer, because they give you a lot of business. Again, maintaining the business that you have, you want to talk about and figure out how do you get to the bulk of your customer base. And so it may be the ones that don't always want to give a lot of feedback and are a little quieter and that sort of stuff. So that's all. I just wanted to add that there of don't settle for the first answer you get from the loudest person in the room. Content, I've been biting my tongue because content is something that fits into everything we've talked about so far, but I think that content is for just about anything. When we talk about content, it can go into any bucket. Content can be what you're doing on video, it can be the literal words on your website, blogs that you're doing, social media, ebooks, all of that. I said before, one of the easiest ways to create content is to riff off of what others have created. Another really good tip for content that's easy to create is to do interviews. This is a secret that magazines have used for years and years and years. You see those magazine articles that are Q&As, and that's because it's the easiest thing to write. You just come up with the questions and the person's answer fills the page for you. So you could do interviews with other customers, you can do interviews with other people in your community, economic development corporations, mayors, chambers of commerce, Rotary groups, volunteer groups. We've seen people do interviews with like, hey, meet our neighbors on each side of us. If you're on the town square right across from the courthouse, Have you ever talked to, Susie's Ice Cream Shack or whatever it is? That kind of stuff can be fun and different for people. It doesn't always have to be, and I would strongly encourage it, not to be Title 101. The interview with your escrow officer on what is escrow? Why is it important? How do we protect people's money? That's very important, and that's not demeaning anyone's role or what we do in this industry. However, it's not always the most interesting to the outside world. And so thinking about that a little differently always helps too. And then I think that the content that matters the most right now, my mantra to our team is, we're constantly trying to create content for our customers' customers. So like all of you, that would be mortgage lenders, real estate agents, builders and investors and others in that kind of world. And for each of those folks, the realtors, the lenders, all of that, if we're not making them money or saving them money right now, they're not paying attention. And so if you have that kind of mindset of, is the stuff we're putting out going to either save our customer money or make them money, will that move the needle? And I think that could be, looking at articles from Realtor Magazine that are apps that realtors are using, ways that people are saving money in their real estate brokerages, ways to think differently about pooling resources for their marketing if they're from the same brokerage. I mean, you always want to put out stuff that's obviously RESPA compliant and all of that kind of thing, but those types of things of being a thought leader and pushing that information to your customer. This is something I know that there are a couple of you on here that I have worked with in the past and that Bowe Digital has worked with in the past. And we've talked a lot about being a thought leader versus being an expert. There are so many title companies where, we'll put together a marketing email that says 4 ways a mortgage lender can save money in their office this month. And they'll say, well, we shouldn't be telling them how to run their business. You're not. You're giving them ideas on things that they could do. Just like, anything that you read from Housing Wire, for example, on how a title company could go paperless or could be more energy efficient or who knows what. You don't have to do all of those things. They're just putting ideas in front of you to then make your own. Then this came, to a head really for us during the pandemic when we were putting out things like how to have a better Facebook Live open house. And we had so many title agents that would say, well, we've never even gone live on our Facebook page. We shouldn't be telling realtors how to go live on theirs or how to make their live even better. You can introduce new thoughts and be someone who is invested in your customer's success without having done it yourself. I am heavily, and Brad is heavily invested in the success of our customers at Bowe Digital. Have I ever worked in a title company? No. Do I know enough to be dangerous? Maybe. But I haven't done a closing myself. I don't want to do anything in escrow. I am definitely not a real estate attorney. All of those specific roles, I'm not an expert in any of that, but I can be a thought leader and introduce things like we are here today to be helpful to you. And so I think if you have that lens right now, especially of making money or saving money, then that's really going to help decide what do you put in your content, what's going to move the needle, and what's probably going to make them interact with, engage, and eventually send you more business because of what you're putting out there.
Yeah, I mean, Brad, what are your thoughts as far as what you see like content that matters the most with the customers you're working with?
Well, not to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to go back to humanizing your team and your brand. People love seeing other people, people that they know, people that they've seen at the grocery store, or your kids play together on the same baseball team, whatever the case may be. But let's highlight your people. That's what really sets your company apart from your competitor, is the people. So let's talk about them. It can be more than just, oh, it was Susie's birthday, it's John's 10th work anniversary, but what do they like to do outside of work? What are they binging on TV right now? Let's start a series about that where we can really find more connection points to connect you and your clients, because you may be surprised sometimes at what really resonates with people, especially while they're on social media. But let's talk about whoever's at your front desk. What kind of pets do they have? What kind of Where do they like to go on vacation, mountains or beach, you know? And then, and on top of that, and kind of playing off of that is ask people for their opinion. You know, you don't have to take their opinion into effect in your business, and nothing may change regardless what anybody votes. But are you more of a steak and potatoes or quesadilla and chips and salsa kind of person? Vote here. You know, you're really wanting that engagement. You're trying to build the routine for your customers and your prospects to be coming back to your page and to your content for some reason, whether it's entertainment, educational, professional. You know, you just want them coming back, and you want them to have something that they can communicate with and engage with to feel like they're a part of something. So what we like to tell people is, like Wayne mentioned earlier, it doesn't always have to be Title 101, and it doesn't even have to be salesy. It could literally be 4 people in our office today all came in wearing black and white shirts with polka dots. You know, how random and crazy, but again, it's relatable and it's engageable, you know, because then you may get more people that are going to share their photos, or they're going to comment, you know, we did that last week, but we were all stripes, or we all wore whatever the case may be. It happens. It's something all of us can relate to, that we've been in something similar to that or know someone that has. So let's just, again, let's humanize our brand and let's humanize our team. And to do that, you have to really focus on the people that are behind the scenes, pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, and making all of this title stuff happen.
And I would say too, in
Yeah,
my years in the industry, sorry, Leslie, I know not everybody loves the silly stuff that Brad was talking about, or what they would deem silly. I think that it's relatable and engaging, and as an elder millennial, it's just the kind of stuff that people do online. And I know there's probably some of you saying, my boss will never go for that, or perhaps you are the boss and you're saying, I'm not, that's not who we are. We're not going to do votes on what kind of pizza toppings you like. The most popular posts that we put out every year as a company for our partners are on National Bring Your Pet to Work Day, and realtors share their pets on these title company pages all the time because people love to talk about it. So I know it may seem silly, but that stuff works. But if you're not into the silly stuff, I did want to add really quickly on the content, something else that we're doing right now. Is we're trying, if somebody has a better idea for this, I'd love for you to chat it to us. I keep talking about it as sort of specializations. And I think one thing you should be doing in your content, again, as you divide up your email lists and all of that, is really thinking about your specializations as a company. A lot of people will just put out really broad statements about how you can help with any real estate transaction. Be specific. If you are especially good at agricultural property in your area, talk about that. 1031s, HELOCs, deeds in lieu, anything like that, right-of-way work, you know, anything like that, that right now, a lot of you are happy to take any additional deal that you can each month. And that kind of stuff, people often have blinders on them when we do research for our customers of, you know, why don't you give them more business, or what, you know, how do you decide what business you give to a title company? A lot of the real estate agents will tell us, I just don't think about them for that kind of work, because I originally gave them my residential work, and that's what they like, and that's just been our relationship. And so this is a really good time to dust off that kind of stuff, and really talk about the things that you're good at. And there may be a ton of them. You know, I think we have a list of like 95 different types of real estate transactions right now that are possible. And I think each one of those could be a different piece of content about how you know how to do that better than anybody else, or why people should come to you for that specific kind of transaction. I think that can be really good content as well. That is a much more, that's a way to talk about title and to be a little meatier in why XYZ title company, that you can mix in as the filler stuff between the more fun things that Brad was talking about.
Yeah, I can't agree more with that. If you have a niche market or a niche ability for something, then you can build around that and say, hey, listen, we can do it all. But we've got a group here that specializes in 1099s, you know, in, you know, 1031s, you know, whatever it is. And you're right, Wayne. I mean, once a partner locks in with someone that's the type of business that they send to them, that's who they're always going to send it to, until someone else comes along and says, hey, look here, like, we specialize in that as well. Or we've got we actually have a commercial division, and we do a ton of commercial things. We maybe don't advertise it, and we should, but we've got that niche market and we specialize in that. And so, that's a really good piece of information, and especially marketing to, when you talked about marketing to your customer base, specifically certain ways, I think that's a really good way to look at that. Hey, who gets, what lender specializes in commercial? Let's send them information about our commercial business, not our title business as a whole. So I think that's great. So I do want to, Wayne, give you an opportunity, because I know one of your secrets for agents to grow their business is to lean into public relations, which I don't think a lot of people in our industry think about or really understand how to utilize it. So working with public relations in their marketing, what does it mean for a title industry, and how do they build a list or create like reported relationships?
Yes, it is one of the secret sauce things that I think that we do really well and that we try to do for our customers, but really anybody can do it, and that is to be involved in the conversation and what's happening in your communities and even at the national level in the real estate industry and beyond. And there are a lot of different ways that you can do that, but some people think that they, when they're thinking about press releases, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because I know we've got some questions to get to too, but is that, well, we don't have any news to share. What we've done a press release when we opened a new office or built our new website or whatever. What else would we be commenting on? One opportunity you have every single month is when they announce new jobs numbers. You could easily put out a 2-sentence statement from your company about what do the jobs numbers mean for the real estate market, that it's still a good time to buy a house. As rates fluctuate, on the specific months or weeks when rates go down, to put out a statement talking about how lower mortgage rates means that now's the time to get into the marketplace. You could comment on things that are happening with economic development in your area, things with, sometimes I think title companies forget that we're also small businesses in general, and you are an expert in hiring and training and culture and all technology, data security. You could be adding to other conversations that are happening in other industries. For example, I live in Indiana, and one of the things our state chamber of commerce focuses on a lot is what's happening in the bio space and in the healthcare space in this state. And if I were a small business, I would talk about anything that I could to get into that conversation with those folks. And so I'm happy to, if anybody wants to schedule time with me and Brad to talk about that more specifically, we're always more than happy to, not even as a sales pitch, but just to brainstorm with you what that might look like. It's not hard to find, reporters that you can send that stuff to, and how to craft a press release. That could be a whole other class that we teach. But if you're looking to take your stuff to the next level, you should really be thinking about the public relations side of things.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, just from my minimal experience with it, they're all, especially in small areas and small businesses, those type of things, whether it be, your chamber of commerce or a local paper or a local blog, they're always looking for content. So they're thrilled for you to reach out and have something for them to post and reference. So I think that's a great opportunity that you guys should take Wayne and Brad up on. I think they can offer some really good insight, because especially if you feel like, well, I'm in a small town or rural area, that's almost an easier place to do it. They're always looking for content in your name. Okay, so obviously title agents have two ways or two options to make this happen. You can hire an outsourced company like Bowe Digital, or you can handle the work internally. And not everybody's got a huge team, not everybody has a marketing department. And the good news is, it works both ways, right? You can go about it either way. So it was kind of in closing, if the two of you could really talk about, if they choose to do this internally, what are, some tools they should know about? What are some things that they can utilize to have a successful internal marketing campaign?
Of course, and I'm happy to give this list. I'll give this list to you, Leslie, because it might be a good blog post for SoftPro in the future to just kind of highlight some of these tools. But one of the big ones for a lot of folks that are doing this on their own is Canva. And I know some of you already know about Canva, but it's an easy web-based design tool. So if you've ever used like Microsoft Publisher in the past, or if you're more advanced and you use Adobe tools for design, Canva makes it super easy. There's a free version and a paid version. The paid version is less than $10 a month for the year. I think it's worth it. The good thing to know about Canva right now, outside of that I'll just touch on quickly, is that there are a number of new AI tools that they've introduced. So you can now, Canva will help find super specific designs for you. So if you typed in that you want a panda eating a piece of pizza on a surfboard, they'll find that image for you and help you with that design. If you've got a presentation that you want to give to local builders, you could type in presentation for builders on real estate, and it will actually create the presentation for you and some of the content. It's also got an AI tool now for captions. It's called Magic Write. And so if you are creating captions on your own, this is something like for our team, one of the things we can talk about title and get creative with that, but we're like, how many different ways can we say St. Patrick's Day for all the companies that we work with? How do we say Merry Christmas? So many different ways. And the AI tool can come up with stuff like that, but it also gets really in depth. The other day I typed in, why do you need a real estate attorney for negotiations? And it gave me like 6 bullet points and 2 paragraphs of content as to why that's important. It's really wild what's happening there. There are also a number of royalty-free image sites that you can use. Some of the best ones that we like are Unsplash, unsplash.com. A fun one, if you're looking for one, if you're like, I want to think outside of the box and I don't want the standard, like Brad was saying, stock photography that's out there. It's called Gratisography, Gratisography. This is like a spelling bee. I felt like I was back in 4th grade. Gratisography is a wonderful site that has more quirky images, stuff that's off the beaten path that you're not going to see with other stock sites and things. Another big one for people is Pixabay, which is Pixabay. Pixabay is great because you can download royalty-free images, but also videos. So if you're going to do more with video and you want some stock video footage, you can get that there. And they also have some stock sounds and other effects that you can use from that site. A couple that I'll mention just lastly here that you should be on your radar. There's a new one out there called Gamma, Gamma, that will automatically turn Word documents and PDFs into presentations. It's an AI tool that helps take existing content and put it into a presentation. So if you've got things like quarterly or annual reports and stuff like that, it's a really great way to just automatically throw that into a design. And then another one that I think anybody should know, regardless of marketing, it can be used for your HR practices, your technology. It's called Scribe. And if you're not using Scribe, you got to add it to your list, because Scribe allows you to screen record how to do something, how to order title on your website, how to use your title production software, how to access your HR benefits, anything like that. You do your screen recording of you narrating what's happening, and Scribe will automatically turn it into a screen by screen how to with your transcribed words that you said as you were recording. So it's a really great tool. You can do something like 2 or 3 of those tutorials per month on the free version. So I think it's scribehow.com. So that's one that should definitely be on your list. I'm sure there are plenty of other tools too, but I wanted to make sure we got to any questions people may have too, Leslie.
Yeah, sure. We do have a couple here, and one is what you get. I'm sure both of you get literally every single presentation you do, and I think it's a great question. It's a lot of information, and for us in the world that does it constantly, it doesn't seem overwhelming because we've done it and we know that it's easy to start and get going. But everybody wants to know where is the best place to start. Like if you've got a small company or a large medium, it doesn't matter, but you've got minimal marketing, or even, honestly, a marketing team. Where is the best bang for the buck, or just an easy transition in so people can kind of then build from that? And Brad, I know you, like you said, you spend your days talking to all your partners. So where do you see someone who really just wants to start? They don't have a lot going on when it comes to the internal marketing. Like, what's your advice to them? Is where's the best place to start?
I think the best place to start is either video or email. And you can combine those two if you'd like, but if you're not doing any email right now, you have to start being top of mind and top of inbox for all of your customers and clients. Again, back to what Wayne said, there's a list of 90 plus different types of transactions that we've got. And that right there is one email a week for more than an entire year. So let's start there. Let's talk about what you do every day and how you can better service those customers. And if you want to get really crazy with it, you could also do that in a video that you automatically embed into your email. Again, with something like a bomb or a hippo.
Oh, now you're getting wild.
I know.
Wayne, in addition to what Brad has already said, what would be another, place where somebody could easily and very cost effectively start?
I would say that I don't want to sound like a broken record. Brad talked about humanizing your team. When people ask like what their differentiator is, it's often the people. So as much as we invest in technology and AI and automations and all of that, there's still people that are pulling the levers, and that's why people bring business back to you. And so figuring out how to highlight your team more will be a winner. And so that's not a specific like which vehicle to use, but I'm saying that that's the path that you should be on, is highlighting the people on your team, whether that's through video, Q&As, whatever it might be. We've had success. We've done some where we'll do, what are you binging this month, and just put out ideas of what's on Netflix for people. There's all kinds of things that you could do there. A lot of companies do pets of their team, baby pictures. People connect with people. And so that's a big one to start with. And I think the other one that can be really cost effective to start with is the public relations strategy, to get more involved with local and national media on issues, to elevate what your company is doing and to be seen by a bigger audience. Again, even if you're on that maintenance path, I think that can result in some business for you pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll add, just because I've done some of these presentations with you guys, but you don't need to reinvent the wheel here. You don't need to have a huge marketing team. And when you talked about this earlier, the content is already out there. It's just how you want to present it. So you don't need to sit down and say, okay, I got at least one blog post a month or one email a month or a week. You don't really need to sit there and construct that. I mean, if you're an Alta member, the Homebuyer Outreach Program was literally created to provide content. They've got, the 10 steps to buying a home. I mean, you could break that into 10 separate emails or 10 separate blog posts, or make it a series. So, you can use content that's out there. You can use the people within your office. This doesn't need to be something huge, but just to get started, there's no point in reinventing the wheel. It's out there and it exists. And it kind of ties into the next question, which is really, almost in my mind one and the same, but I will go ahead and ask you, and I know you guys hear this a lot, especially at conferences that we're at, is this is all well and good, and I would love it. And, but I'm from a really small town. There's only a few title companies. It's really word of mouth, and we don't have the budget or anybody that even remotely does marketing. This doesn't really apply to us. And I, having been around you guys so much now and seen the work that you do, can't disagree enough with that. I feel like that's your best market, because you're going to be the only one advertising or marketing, right? So someone said, we don't have a marketing department and we're really small. How can we make this work? So, thinking of it outside of just the emails that we were just talking about, our video, I think it's a mindset. Wouldn't you guys say, like, we don't need to just go drop off goodies at the mortgage company anymore and hope they give us business. You can really actively market your business and sell them on your actual business and services, not just what free stuff you bring them. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Brad?
Yeah, I think you are exactly right. Pardon me. And I think that, like we alluded to earlier, bringing resource and value to your client's business without having that ask for their business in return is really the best way to make sure that you are integrated and in lockstep with their business on some level. They never know when they're going to have a client come through their doors that they don't know how to answer a question. But if you've given them a resource or a little tidbit or a little nugget of something in the past, they're going to remember, oh yeah, ABC Title posted something about this on their social media a month ago. Let me go back and find it and let me get back to you. Being a part of their business, even though you're not in the same four walls and under the same roof, is so is such an advantage to you. And especially with the way JVs and things like that are right now, you never know how long you're going to be the only game in town. I know Wayne's got a story about that that he may share, but you just never know when someone else is going to realize, oh, there's not a whole lot of competition in this market. Even if I get a little bit of that market share, this may be a good place for me to set up shop too. And then you're back in that game of, am I in growth mode or retention mode? Or now all of a sudden, am I going to be catapulted into both? So that's kind of my thoughts. And Wayne, you may have more to share on that.
No, I agree. And the story Brad's talking about is we had a customer who was the only game in town in his state for almost 80 plus years, and literally went on a 2-week vacation to Europe and came home, and there was a new title company propping up right across the street. And so, and you may say that wouldn't happen here because you have to have a title plant in my state, or you have to have this, that, or the other. Even if that's not specifically happening, you know, it's something that you've got to get started with and have to be thinking about. And I think Leslie's right. If you're giving, I tell folks all the time, if your marketing budget is pins and donuts and that kind of flyby stuff, this goes back to that mindset of, are you making them money or saving them money? If you have salespeople that are going out or still reaching out to people and doing the, like, I just wanted to catch up, I just wanted to see how business is doing, let's go grab a cup of coffee. They didn't have time for that in the last 3 years because things were so incredibly busy. But because of that, they were also super forgiving to anything that was happening in your office. They're not going to be as forgiving for time wasted now. If you're not making the money and saving them money, then you've got to rethink what you're doing. And donuts feel good, and pins, you know, stay in purses and bags and wallets and laptops, briefcases for a while. But you've got to think about something that's a little deeper to gain their interest right now.
Wayne, if you would like to come by our office and drop off some laptops, we would be very open to that. That'd be great.
I was going to offer, if anybody is so inspired to start doing video from this webinar, if you send your video that you've completed to Brad or myself, I am happy to send you a ring light so that your next video is well lit and you're even more professional in what you're doing. I am happy to do that for you. So if you are inspired to not worry about your voice or what you look like, and you're looking through SoftPro's blogs right now and you do a video after this, send it our way and I will send you a ring light to say congratulations on taking that next step.
That's awesome. All of you listening out there really should take advantage of this. You know, touching just real quickly, I know we're running low on time, but we still have pretty much everyone on the line. So just kind of adding to what you guys just said is, you know, we're in a market where you know, people are really actively trying to maintain or get business, including your lenders, your brokers, your realtors, and your title agents and attorneys. So to your point, Wayne, you know, dropping off the pens and dropping off that, while it's all well and good, it's not bringing them business, right? So you both just talked about engaging with them and how you can offer a service to help you both get business, whether it be through marketing actively a consumer, or realtors with open houses, or whatever it may be. It's really a time to kind of shift the way that we look at how we garner business. And, you know, especially if you're from a smaller area, they know you do good business already. Now it's like, how can you work together with us? How can we partner to go ahead and try and get more business? So I think that it's important that people just don't look at it as, okay, what kind of tchotchkes can we drop off and keep our name in front of them? I mean, that's all still well and good, but it's really, hey, in addition to all this, like, we can actually help, we can partner, we can use these marketing strategies that we've learned about, and we can actually go ahead and try and get business together. What, you know, what we can do for you and you can do for me, I think goes a long way. And it's not something traditionally we've really ever thought of in our industry. It was more just, I got to keep my partner happy so they continue to throw orders my way, right? Well, now we can look at it as, okay, I still want those orders, but how can I help them maintain them or grow more? And I think the return on that will surprise a lot of people, you know, versus just dropping off donuts every Monday or doing a lunch and learn or something like that. So, all right, well, I know we're out of time. I could talk to you two all day, as you well know. So I just want to thank you both for taking time out of your day. We had a lot of really good engagement with this webinar. So we will include your contact information in our follow-up email, and that way, if anybody wants to take you up on your very generous offer of, you know, submitting a video to you, they can go ahead and do that, and they'll know where to send it. Also, you know, I can't stress enough that if you really are trying to get into the marketing, you know, end of things, really talk to people, whether in your area or, you know, outside external things and what they have to offer. A company like Bowe Digital, you know, it's a lot easier than you think. It's not a big giant marketing undertaking. I know they won't sell themselves, so I'm going to sell them for them, but it's really easy, and they offer a lot of different options from small to big. So if you even just want to chat with them about it, I know they're very open to it. So with that, I think we will say thank you guys once again, and thank everyone for joining us, and we will send out a recap in the next day or two. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to send them my way. And other than that, I think that we will go ahead and sign off, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Leslie.